Well, this is Dr. Stan. We've got Dan calling us from Pennsylvania. Dan, go right ahead.
How you doing there, Stan?
Doing just fine.
This is really interesting. Your last hour's guest and Bob Chapman, who I always appreciate. Bob, you said something, and you were talking to Alex Jones, I believe it was last Thursday, and you said something that really rattled me to my shoes, and I've been thinking about it. You didn't have a chance to explain it. You mentioned Americans are a race of their own. Can you elaborate on that, because it seems like a very hopeful topic?
Well, I think that I was speaking about that in relation to the movement, the Bilderbergers and CFR and these people who want to bring about world government, and I think they're underestimating the warrior potentials and the stiffening of the spine of the average American, even the dumb ones.
Yeah.
And of course, that's propelled as well by unemployment and loss of things, everything in some cases. And these people have really underestimated what's going to happen. It's not only in America, it's in Europe, because they've already started, and you're going to see it in all over the world in countries that have had problems with their governments previously because they're following the dictates of the United States and Europe, but particularly the United States and Great Britain. And I think that these people, in their underestimation of this, we'll call them a race of Americans, they're going to get themselves wiped out.
So they haven't tested the full will of the American people? Is that what you're alluding to?
Right, and that the only time that has really happened is during the Revolutionary War and then the Civil War.
Yes.
And every other war since then has been foreign in nature. And
yes, that's
they
true.
are so anxious to get this world government that they'll do anything to get it.
Well, we're the best armed people in the world right now, as it goes.
And that's not going to change, even if they try to collect them.
People cannot, of course, fight against, fighter planes and bombers and missiles and all of these things and other these sophisticated weapons that have been bought by our tax money. But the question is, will the American people, will the military and the police abide by the Constitution, or will they go along with our unelected rulers, the people from the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergers and the Council on Foreign Relations, who hate America and certainly hate our Constitution? We'll be back here in just a moment with Bob Chapman. Well, this is Dr. Stan back here. And certainly, our guest this afternoon, Bob Chapman. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. And Dan, do you have anything else to say before we let you go?
Yeah, I have one thing to say. The Korean War and the Vietnam War was not won. Those people, and of course I know there's political and Illuminati influence in there, but that is nothing about the defeat that's going to happen when we are here, and the American people. And Bob, I really take solace and confidence in what you said. That should be a cry, that Americans, and now we're not talking about just black Americans, we're not talking just about Asian Americans, whatever. We're talking Americans, right? Everybody.
People have come here because they wanted to be free, and there are people who wanted that freedom away. And these are subversive organizations that today control the Obama administration. At least 10 key people are there, members of the Council on Foreign Relations. Heaven, there's only 120 of them in the whole country.
Yeah.
And there are probably going to be a lot more before this is over. Anyway, God bless you. Thanks so much
thank
for
you,
calling,
Stan.
Dan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Again, our number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. What we've got to do is begin pointing out that the agenda of the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderbergers and the Group of 30 is a subversive agenda, and these people should be tried for subversion in our country. They are intent upon destroying the constitutional guarantees of our freedom, and there are 10 people in the Obama administration, right at the present time, Chief of Intelligence, National Security Advisor, Deputy National Security Advisor, the Ambassador to the United Nations, Chief Economic Advisor Paul Volcker, the Secretary of the Treasury, of course, Timothy Geithner, and then, of course, Deputy Secretary of State John Steinberg, and Richard Haass, who are going to be in the State Department, and 2 others in the State Department, all come. There are only 120 people in the Council and the Trilateral Commission, and at least 10 are already in the administration, and nobody's telling you that. Do you think that happened just by accident? Of course not. According to Barry Goldwater, they set out in 1973 to seize control of our government. They have a subversive unit is working on our government who's dedicated to destroying our economy, to bringing the whole world into this one world government. Well, let's go to George, who's calling from Toronto, Canada. Again, our number 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 464-8295. Oh, before we go to George, you hang on there, Bob. I get so wound up talking to you, I forget to have you get out your website and tell people how they can get a copy of the International Forecaster.
Well, the International Forecaster is about business, finance, economics, and social and political issues all over the world. We publish by email on Wednesdays and Saturdays, usually around 35 pages each time. And we have a hard copy that goes out twice a month for those who are not on the Internet, and that goes out by mail. If you would like a free introductory copy, you can go to any one of these 3 places. Our site, theinternationalforecaster.com, theinternationalforecaster.com. You can email us at international_forecaster@yahoo.com. international_forecaster@yahoo.com, or you can call toll-free 800-375-4188. That's 800-375-4188.
Okay, let's go to George calling from Toronto, Canada. Hi, George. How are you doing?
I'm great, Dr. Stan. How are you?
Doing just great. Is it a little cold up there?
Oh, yes, it certainly is. There's lots of snow here, too.
All right, fine. Well, I won't tell you what it's like here, overlooking beautiful and picturesque Monterey Bay today, but you go ahead and tell me.
Sure, rub it in, Dr. Stan.
Oh, listen, somebody's got to live there and Toronto and shovel all that snow. What can we do for you today? Do you have a question for us? Yes.
Well, yeah, I want to say to Bob, Bob, they're having a stimulus package up here in Canada with a budget tomorrow. And it's already been leaked out that it'd be $64 billion over the next 2 years. And it sounds like they're going to try and divvy it up 3 ways, with the federal government, provincial, and municipal governments picking up the tab for some of these infrastructure projects and such that they're planning. So I guess we're looking at the same type of situation you are in the States. And also, do you think the Illuminati extends itself into the municipal politics?
Only from the top down. But there's a possibility that they have people in those kind of positions. That's how they get in positions. They, let it be known that they espouse the same kind of line, particularly in Canada. Canada is essentially a 2-party country, and the same old dogs come out and run for election all the time. And the same thing in the United States. So they've got the same problems, and they're trying to do the same thing. We're seeing stimulus packages in Europe and in Mexico, and you will see them everywhere, and they'll be unsuccessful. And the people who are planning these things, they know that. This is just to keep the palliative in place until they're ready to really pull the plug. And they'll be ready to do that once they've accomplished some of the things I've said earlier in the program.
So that means there'll be massive inflation in all these different countries that are having these stimulus packages in.
That's correct. And then eventually that'll be followed by deflation and depression in a form that's readily recognizable. I believe we started depression already.